This is Norway's massive $47 billion investment to revolutionize this road, the E39, and turn it into an engineering masterpiece. When completed, E39 will span uninterrupted for 1100 kilometers and bridge between the cities of Kristiansand and Trondheim, reducing travel time in half. This will be done by removing the 8 ferry crossings that any traveler must now endure to go up north. A part of this investment will be used to build what will then be the world's longest and deepest road tunnel, the Rockfast underwater tunnel. It will enter the Bay of Bergen with a length of 27 kilometers and is scheduled to open by 2026. But this is just the tip of the iceberg of Norway's incredible design, quality of infrastructure, and human development. When you consider the brutal terrain that Norway has to tame to build a sustainable and efficient transportation system like fjords, frozen waters, waterfalls, and harsh winter temperatures, it makes moving people and goods in Norway a great challenge. And the Norwegians have found a unique way to overcome this challenge: diversification. See, having a country that is this diverse in terrain means incredible amounts of efficient and flexible infrastructure is required, and the Norwegians have mastered the craft of exploiting the peculiar terrain of each region. From the busy industrial plains in the south, where the capital Oslo is located, to the western fjords that can reach the 550-meter depth of the Bjarnefjorden right on the E39 path, to the thin land corridor that brings all the way up to the Arctic Circle and the northernmost point of continental Europe. So diversification is key and is achieved through 4 pillars: roads, railways, ferries, and airports. When you compare maps of the 4, you see resources and infrastructures are allocated in a genius way. Railway serves the busiest population centers, mainly in the south, with a total of 4,237 kilometers. In this spirit, Norway's dubbed largest infrastructure project up to date is on its way. This is the Follo Line project, connecting Oslo to the neighboring public transportation hub of Ski, 125 meters above sea level. It will be an underground, double-track, high-speed railway of 22 kilometers, transporting people in and out of the capital, day and night, 20 hours a day. When it comes to their roads though, they provide fast connections among the main population centers and serve the needs of people living mainly inland. Now, roads in Norway are equally impressive, with a grand total of almost 94,000 paved kilometers and more than 1,000 tunnels. They're even giving Switzerland a run for their money. What's more, even the most remote corners of the country are well served by 52 active airports. Just to put this into perspective, Norway has a population of just 5 million people, and the UK, with 68 million people, only has 49 airports. In Norway, air transport is a big deal, and you can see why. When looking at the breathtaking landscapes as you approach the Arctic Circle and the sheer size of the country, a great number of airports are necessary. Just consider this: among the 11 busiest airline passenger routes in Europe, Norway holds 4. They all depart from Oslo toward Trondheim, Bergen, Stavanger, and Tromsø. But of course, the most iconic means of transport in Norway is the ferry, sailing through the steep fjords of the western coast on the Norwegian Sea. See, nearly half the population of Norway lives on that coast, and a fourth of Norwegians living north of Trondheim are heavily dependent on maritime transport, especially for freight transportation of food and various goods. Over 700 ports with 32 major hubs constellate the thousands of fjords that make up the coastline. Each of these transportation networks is impressive per se, but the true ace up Norway's sleeve is flexibility achieved through diversification. Norway's terrain is very diverse, and people have very different needs when it comes to moving passengers and goods. With a country like this, it doesn't make sense to just put your bets on a single horse. I mean, this is a population density map of Norway. It's not particularly dense. Let's compare this with the distribution of railways, roads, ferries, and airports. Trains connect the main cities of the southern plateau, with great insistence on the capital city, Oslo. Roads fill in the spaces between the main lines and make sure that everybody is served inland. Airports make it possible to reach remote population centers, for instance here, and here. Lastly, ferries navigate the challenging western coast on which roughly half of all Norwegians live. Norway is so well designed and efficient because its peculiarities are integrated into one cohesive and organic system. And all of this is done with great attention to sustainability and environment protection. Norway is already ranked as one of the greenest countries in the world. But Norway does not plan to stop there. Through governmental incentives and a whopping 98% of Norway's energy coming from renewable sources, almost 80% of car sales in Norway was purely electric cars in 2022, which makes it the highest share of electric cars on the roads of any country in the world. Ruter, the company that covers public transportation in Oslo, has set a goal to make Norway's capital's transportation grid completely emission-free by 2028. But it's not just Oslo or the other major cities of the country. Since 2021, there are more than 60 fully electric or hydroelectric ferries operating along the western fjords, both for passenger and freight use. While Norway is actively exploring ways to make this important part of their transportation ecosystem even greener through eco-friendly marine fuels such as ammonia and hydrogen, the private and public sectors in Norway have established a joint green marine shipping program to create synergies in this sector. In mid-2022, Yara Birkeland, the first ever zero-emission autonomous freight ship, entered into operation and promises to put out of the sea 40,000 diesel-powered commercial journeys per year. As I've mentioned, Norway's energy supply system is one of the striking ways in which sustainability, flexibility, and efficiency get to go so hand in hand there. What's fascinating to me is that Norway is the top producer of electricity per capita in the world, with more than 27,500 kilowatt hours per person produced in 2021. For reference, the US produced a mere 12,314 kilowatt hours. The reason is simple. Norway is one of the biggest consumers of electricity per capita in the world. And as you might expect, to power such an efficient and well-connected country in such harsh geographical conditions, you need a ton of electricity. And amazingly, 98% of Norway's energy is completely green. 88% of this comes from Norway's water sources through 1,681 hydropower plants and an impressive 10% from wind power. However, a great country's infrastructure does not only take place on Earth. Did you know that Norway was the first non-English speaking country to be connected to the net via the US-based ARPANET framework? Well, since 1999, Norway has generally been regarded as having one of the most developed telecommunications infrastructures in the world, ranging from the quality of phone signal and usage to the share of people actively using online services. This all comes from the context of the Norwegian government pledging to make access to media and the internet even more open and efficient by becoming one of the leading countries in the adoption of AI technology. The way Norway can actually do this though is the interesting part, as it has to do with money. See, Norway enjoys one of the highest GDP per capita in the world and was ranked first in the Human Development Report of 2019. The World Economic Forum crowned Norway as the most inclusive economy in the world, meaning that it has an impressive capacity to provide growth over decades across different sectors and creating jobs for the general population. This is quite different from just hoarding wealth from natural resources and leaving it to rot away, and it shows. While we all know that Scandinavian countries on average top many international economic and social rankings, Norway has an advantage that sets it apart from its neighbors Sweden and Denmark, despite the fact that until 1814 Denmark and Norway were under the same country. Remember how 98% of Norway's energy supply comes from renewable sources? You would probably be surprised to learn that at the same time, Norway is the second largest oil producer in Europe and the 11th largest in the world, producing roughly double that of the UK. This is because Norway is absolutely blessed by the number of oil rigs in its exclusive economic zone. This is a map of the oil reserves in the North Sea, and this is a map of those that fall within Norway's exclusive economic zone. As you can see, it's pretty lucrative to be Norway. But Norway is not using this oil themselves. Oh no. See, the Norwegian government devised a grand plan to find a better use for the Norwegian oil reserves than just exploiting it for immediate consumption. And Norway is unique in choosing not to consume the oil it digs up from the sea, at least primarily, as the barrels of oil are instead sold and the money generated is invested in very long-term, decade-long plans to pay for infrastructures and social services. When oil was first discovered in the North Sea in 1969, Norway set up the Government Pension Fund Global, which grew to become the largest sovereign wealth fund in the world and went well beyond fully funding the country's pension plan. The revenues from the oil extraction are invested in foreign companies and banks, generating an array of assets amounting to more than $1 trillion today. This huge patrimony funds a good portion of Norway's public expenditure, from pensions to social services and subsidies, to investments for harnessing its wild nature and powering Norway's incredible transportation grid. Being one of the largest oil producers in the world that benefits from its oil reserves while managing to build an environmentally friendly society is frankly genius. And this process has just recently got a new important step, as in 2021 the wealth fund officially sold out all shares held in oil and gas investments in a plea to support fully green policies. I think it's important to remember that Norway started off with very rough conditions, and before the discovery of oil, the country looked like this and had a GDP among the lowest in Europe. Yet the discovery of oil didn't corrupt them, like we've seen in other oil-rich nations. So Norway's journey to becoming incredibly well designed is an interesting one. But that's it for this video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.